The Galactic Defense Network was considered flawless. Every ship, from the smallest cargo hauler to the largest war cruiser, was tracked the moment it entered the sector. Nothing could pass through unnoticed. The alien races of the Galactic Union had spent centuries perfecting this system, making sure that no unknown threats could ever reach their core worlds. But today, something was wrong. Inside the control center of Outpost Theta 9, Officer Relmac of the Tselvari Empire sat lazily in his chair, his 4 arms stretched out as he yawned. It was a boring job. Monitoring deep space for signals, tracking authorized ships, and occasionally sending warnings to foolish smugglers trying to sneak into restricted areas. His partner, Officer Veltor, tapped lazily on the console, his claws drumming against the screen. "Anything interesting?" he asked. Relmac sighed. "Nothing, as always." Then an alarm blared. The lights dimmed for a second as the entire monitoring station came to life. Screens flashed red, and symbols scrolled rapidly across the displays. The artificial intelligence in the system had detected something impossible. An unknown warship had just entered the sector. Veltor shot up from his seat. "That can't be right." Relmac's hands flew over the controls, trying to make sense of the data. "Check the readings. Maybe it's a glitch." The computer confirmed. No glitch. No error. A massive warship was moving through deep space, heading straight toward them. Veltor's claws tightened on the edge of the console. Where did it come from? Relmac checked the logs. Nothing. No hyperspace signatures, no jump coordinates, no records of an incoming fleet. It was as if the ship had appeared out of nowhere. The officers looked at each other, their amusement now replaced by unease. "Send a report to command," Veltor said quickly. This could be a rogue fleet or worse, an invasion. Relmac nodded and opened a secure communication link to the Galactic Defense Fleet. "This is Outpost Theta 9. We have an unidentified warship in the sector. No known origin. No previous records. It's just here." A few seconds later, the response came from the fleet commander, a hardened Sornak general named Darlek. His voice was calm, but firm. "Unknown warship. Impossible. Our system detects everything." Relmac hesitated before replying. "Sir, we are looking at it right now. This ship is real." A long silence followed. Then the command was given. "Send a warning." The warning that was ignored. The automated warning systems activated. A transmission was sent on all known frequencies. "Unidentified vessel. This is Galactic Defense. You have entered restricted space. Identify yourself immediately or prepare to be engaged." The officers watched the screens, waiting for a response. Nothing. Veltor gritted his teeth. "They heard us. Why aren't they answering?" Relmac zoomed in on the ship's trajectory. "It's still moving, straight toward us." Panic started creeping into the control room. Every known civilization followed the same protocols. No one ignored an official warning from the Galactic Defense Fleet. It was suicide to provoke the Union's military might. But this ship did not care. It did not slow down. It did not respond. It simply moved forward. The first visual contact. The long-range scanners finally managed to get a clear image of the warship. The moment it appeared on the screen, the entire room fell silent. The ship was massive, larger than any dreadnought ever recorded. Its black hull had no markings, no insignia. It was smooth, as if it had been forged from a single piece of dark metal. No visible weapon ports, no exhaust trails, no energy signatures that matched known technology. It was like looking at a ghost. Veltor whispered, "What? What kind of ship is that?" Relmac's fingers trembled over the keyboard. "I don't know, but it's heading straight for us." A second message was sent. This time, a direct hailing signal. "Unidentified vessel, you are violating Galactic Union space. Identify yourself immediately, or we will be forced to respond with military action." Again, no reply. The fleet mobilizes. By now, The Galactic Defense Fleet was fully aware of the situation. Admiral Karvok, a ruthless war strategist, personally took command of the response. He was given one order: stop the unknown warship at any cost. Within minutes, a fleet of 50 warships was dispatched. Cruisers, battleships, and destroyers formed a blockade surrounding the area where the mysterious ship was traveling. Their weapons were fully charged, shields at maximum power. The fleet's communication officer made one last attempt. Unknown vessel, you are surrounded. Power down your engines and prepare for boarding. Silence. Then, the ship finally responded. A deep, cold voice echoed across every channel, in perfect galactic common. Your warnings are meaningless. Your fleets are nothing. Step aside. For the first time in his career, Admiral Karvok felt something he had never felt before. Fear. The impossible becomes real. Karvok clenched his fists and barked orders. All ships, prepare to fire. But before a single weapon could be launched, the unknown warship vanished. 1 second. It was there. The next, it was gone. No hyperspace jump detected. No energy spike. It had just disappeared. The fleet officers froze, their screens suddenly empty. Where did it go? Then a new signal appeared, directly behind them. The warship was now positioned inside the fleet formation. It had moved without detection, bypassing every defense, as if the laws of physics did not apply to it. Panic erupted. How did it do that? That's impossible. It's right behind us. Before the fleet could react, the mysterious ship finally attacked. A single burst of white energy shot from the warship. Not a missile, not a laser, something else. The lead battleship, a heavily armored destroyer known as the Indomitable, was struck. It did not explode. It did not catch fire. It simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next, it was gone, reduced to dust in an instant. Silence fell over the fleet. The battle had not even begun, and they had already lost their most powerful warship. Then the cold voice spoke again. We are human, and this is your only warning. The fleet did not fire. They did not chase. For the first time in history, the Galactic Union did something they had never done before. They retreated. Panic spread across the Galactic Union's high command. Reports from Outpost Theta 9 and the fleet's disastrous encounter flooded the emergency channels. An unknown human warship had appeared, ignored all warnings, bypassed their defenses like they were nothing, and erased a battleship with a single shot. But the most terrifying part, it had disappeared again. No tracking beacon, no hyperspace signature, nothing. Emergency meeting. The Galactic Council was summoned immediately. High Chancellor Valzor stood at the center of the Grand Chamber, his golden robes trembling as he faced the gathered leaders of the most powerful species in the galaxy. We have an urgent crisis, he began. His voice was steady, but his 6 eyes darted nervously between the council members. An unidentified warship has entered our sector. It has ignored our warnings. It has destroyed one of our most powerful ships in an instant, and we do not know where it is now. A wave of whispers spread through the chamber. The leaders of the Xelvari, the Sornak Dominion, the Veltran Alliance, and dozens of other civilizations exchanged worried glances. The Galactic Union was built on absolute control. Nothing was supposed to be beyond their knowledge. And yet here they were, blind, vulnerable, afraid. Councillor Telvex of the Veltran banged his clawed fist against the table. Who are they? General Cumnor, the Supreme Commander of the Galactic Defense Fleet, stood and cleared his throat. We only have one clue. He pressed a button, and a recording played. We are human, and this is your only warning. The deep, emotionless voice filled the chamber. The room fell silent. Humans, a name that did not exist in any galactic records. No known civilization by that name. No known homeworld. Nothing. It was as if they had appeared from nowhere, searching for answers. The Galactic Council immediately ordered a full-scale investigation. Every intelligence agency, every historian, every record-keeper across the Union was tasked with finding anything about this species. Days passed. The search led to nothing. No empire, no colony, no fleet, no records of any first contact. It made no sense. And then, after relentless searching, they found something. In the deepest, most ancient archives of the Union, a file thousands of years old, a single entry, a warning. A shivering researcher read the words out loud. Do not seek the lost ones. Do not enter their space. Do not wake the humans. The council chamber went silent. Chancellor Valzor's voice trembled. What does this mean? No one had an answer. But one thing was certain. The humans were awake now. And the galaxy was not prepared for what came next. The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for millennia. Their fleets were unmatched, their technology superior, their enemies crushed before they could rise. But now, for the first time in history, they were afraid. The human warship had appeared from nowhere, destroyed their most powerful battleship, and vanished without a trace. Their records had no history of this species, only an ancient warning. Do not wake the humans. The Council refused to accept this. No species could be this powerful. No empire could remain hidden for so long. It had to be a trick. A rogue warship, a lost remnant of some forgotten civilization. And so the decision was made. They would hunt the humans. The trap is set. Admiral Connor, the supreme commander of the Galactic Defense Fleet, was furious. He had never lost a battle, never been humiliated. The loss of the Indomitable, his fleet's flagship, was a stain on his honor. He demanded revenge. The Council gave him full authority to eliminate the human threat. His plan was simple: lure the human ship into a trap. A distress signal was sent from a remote sector, Sector 14X, an uninhabited system near the Union's border. Fake data was planted, showing a disabled galactic transport carrying vital supplies. If the human ship was watching, it would see the signal and come to investigate. And when it arrived, Connor would be waiting. He gathered the most elite fleet ever assembled. 100 warships, dreadnoughts, battle cruisers, and destroyers armed with the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. Stealth mines, invisible traps that could disable any ship's engines instantly. EMP pulses, designed to overload shields and render even the strongest warships helpless. The trap was perfect. The moment the human ship arrived, it would be surrounded. It would have no escape. Connor sat in his command chair aboard the warship Oblivion, watching the sector carefully. Now we wait. The human ship arrives. 2 days passed. Nothing. Then, suddenly, movement. The sensors detected a faint energy signature at the edge of the sector. Connor's eyes narrowed. It took the bait. The fleet went into full alert. Weapons were charged. Targeting systems locked on. Stealth mines were activated. The moment the ship entered the trap, it would be over. But something was wrong. The energy signature vanished. One of Connor's officers spoke nervously. "Sir, the ship is gone." Connor growled. "That's impossible. Scan again." Another officer checked the readings. I don't understand. The ship was there a second ago, but now it's..." An alarm blared. A new signal appeared, directly behind them. Connor's blood ran cold. That's not possible. But it was. The human warship had bypassed their entire defense line. The hunters had become the hunted. The trap fails. Before Connor could react, the human ship struck. It did not fire missiles. It did not launch fighters. It simply sent out a pulse. The moment the pulse hit, every galactic warship shut down. Engines died. Shields collapsed. Weapons powered off. The entire fleet was left drifting, helpless. Panic erupted across the command decks. Officers screamed as they frantically tried to restart their systems. Nothing worked. Connor pounded his fists against the console. How? What kind of weapon is this? Then the human ship spoke. The same cold, emotionless voice echoed across every channel. You thought you were the hunters. You were wrong. Kanor clenched his teeth. We are the Galactic Defense Fleet. We do not surrender. For a moment, there was silence. Then the voice spoke again. We were not asking for surrender. And then the war began. Admiral Kanor had never felt fear before. He had led countless battles, crushed rebellions, and wiped out entire species without hesitation. But now he was powerless. His entire fleet, 100 of the most powerful warships in the Galactic Union, was completely disabled by a single pulse from the human warship. The lights flickered on the bridge of the Oblivion. Emergency power was barely functioning. Weapons, shields, and engines remained offline. His officers were shouting in panic, desperately trying to reboot the systems. Nothing worked. And the human warship just floated there, watching. Kanor's claws dug into his armrests. He refused to accept this. This wasn't possible. No species could disable an entire fleet like this. No one had this kind of power. And yet, here they were. The first strike. Then, without warning, the human warship attacked. Not with missiles, not with energy beams, with light. A thin, white beam emerged from the warship's hull. It was silent, almost delicate. But the moment it touched the nearest galactic battleship, the ship simply disappeared. No explosion, no debris, just gone. Gasps filled the bridge. Kanor's officers watched in horrified silence as the next ship vanished. Then the next. One by one, warships were erased from existence. Kanor slammed his fist against the console. Fire! Fire, everything! His weapons officer's voice trembled. Admiral, we can't. The fleet was still completely disabled. They could do nothing but watch as their fleet was erased. The broadcast. Across the Galactic Union, millions watched in real time. The human warship had taken control of every broadcast signal. Every planet, every outpost, every military base was forced to watch the destruction. The cold voice of the human ship echoed through the stars. We were forgotten. You thought we were myths. You ignored the warnings. Now, you will remember. The Galactic Union's most powerful fleet, destroyed. Kanor closed his eyes, his breathing heavy. This was not war. This was annihilation. The humans had never lost their power. They had only been waiting. And now, the waiting was over. The next target. The human warship turned. It was no longer interested in the crippled remains of Kanor's fleet. It had a new destination. The Galactic Council's homeworld. Kanor's eyes widened in horror. They're heading for the capital. If the humans reached the Union's heart, it would not be a battle. It would be the end of the Galactic Union itself. The galactic capital, Prime Nexus, was the most secure planet in the known universe. It was protected by planetary shields, orbital defense stations, and the largest fleet ever assembled. Nothing had ever threatened it. No enemy had ever dared to attack it. Until now. The human warship was coming. The news spread like wildfire. Billions of citizens stared at their screens, watching in terror as the Union's greatest fleet was erased in minutes. The name humans, a species no one had heard of, was now spoken with fear. The Galactic Council was in chaos. Chancellor Valzor's voice trembled as he spoke to his military commanders. How long until the warship reaches us? A Sornik officer checked the star charts. His scales had turned pale with fear. 3 cycles. Less if they use whatever technology they have. The room went silent. 3 cycles. In less than 3 days, the human warship would arrive at the heart of the Galactic Union. And no one knew how to stop it. Desperate measures. The Council immediately ordered every available warship to return to Prime Nexus. Thousands of battleships, dreadnoughts, and fighter squadrons were recalled. Orbital defenses were fully powered, and planetary shields were reinforced. If the human warship came, it would face the full strength of the Galactic Union. Chancellor Valzor turned to his intelligence chief. "Tell me everything we know about the humans." The intelligence chief hesitated. "Sir, there is nothing." The Chancellor's 6 eyes narrowed. "Nothing." The officer swallowed. "We searched every archive, every record, every historical database. There are no details, no homeworld, no colonies, only the warning." He placed an ancient, dust-covered tablet on the table. The Chancellor read the words aloud. "Do not seek the lost ones. Do not enter their space. Do not wake the humans." Silence filled the room. A Veltran scientist spoke in a hushed voice. "We didn't wake them." The room turned to her. She continued, her voice shaking. "They woke themselves." The last warning. A new transmission interrupted the council's meeting. A cold, mechanical voice filled the chamber. "You ignored the warnings." The entire council froze. "You hunted us." A holoscreen lit up, showing the human warship, still far from Prime Nexus, but moving steadily closer. "Now we are coming." Then the transmission cut out. No demands, no negotiations, just a promise. Chancellor Valzor turned to his generals. "If the humans want war, we will give them one." But deep inside, he felt a terrible truth. This wasn't a war. This was judgment. The skies above Prime Nexus were filled with warships. Every fleet in the Galactic Union had been recalled. Over 10,000 warships, dreadnoughts, cruisers, destroyers, and carriers, formed a massive blockade around the planet. Planetary shields hummed with energy, covering the capital world in an impenetrable barrier. Defense stations floated in orbit, their massive cannons locked and ready. This was the strongest military force ever assembled. And yet, no one felt safe. Because one warship was coming. A single human warship. And the entire Galactic Union was terrified, waiting for the enemy. Admiral Xorvek stood on the bridge of the Titan's Wrath, the most powerful flagship in the fleet. He had fought in countless wars, crushed rebellions, and led invasions. But now he was waiting for an enemy he did not understand. His officers scanned the void of space. Nothing. No hyperspace signature. No ships, just the cold, empty blackness. And then, an alarm blared. "Admiral, we have movement." The crew tensed. A single dot appeared on the sensor screens. It was faint, barely noticeable, yet moving directly toward them. The human warship had arrived. The standoff. The fleet locked weapons. Cannons glowed. Missiles were armed. Admiral Xorvek raised his voice. "All ships, hold position. Do not fire until I give the order." A communication request appeared on the main screen. The humans were hailing them. Xorvek hesitated, then nodded. "Put it through." A cold, mechanical voice filled the bridge. "You have one last chance." The Admiral's mandibles twitched. Chance for what? The human voice did not waver. "To surrender." Laughter broke out among the officers. Surrender. The Galactic Union had never surrendered. Admiral Xorvek sneered. "We are the strongest force in the galaxy. You are one ship. Do you really think you can defeat us?" A pause. Then the voice spoke again. "Yes." The attack begins. Without warning, the human warship moved. It did not fire missiles. It did not launch fighters. It simply vanished. Where did it go? Xorvek roared. Sensors scrambled. Scanners detected nothing. Then, a battleship exploded. A massive galactic dreadnought, one of the most powerful ships in the fleet, was cut in half instantly. Then another, and another. No energy readings, no visible weapons, just instant destruction. The fleet erupted in chaos. Thousands of warships opened fire, but they were shooting at empty space. They couldn't see the enemy. They couldn't fight back. One by one, ships vanished from existence. Admiral Xorvek clenched his fists. This is impossible. But it was real. The strongest fleet in the galaxy was being erased. The shield falls. The planetary shield around Prime Nexus glowed brightly, a final defense against the impossible enemy. But then, the shield flickered. Power drained rapidly. The shield generators, protected deep within the planet, began to fail. A desperate transmission came from the surface. The shield is collapsing. We don't know how. It's... And then, the shield vanished. The Galactic Union was defenseless. The human warship hovered above the capital, watching, waiting. The end of an era. The final transmission from Prime Nexus was broadcast across the galaxy. Billions watched as the Galactic Union fell silent. No one knew what happened next. No explosions, no screams, no debris, just silence. And then, the human warship disappeared. The greatest empire in the galaxy had fallen. And only one name remained: humanity. The Galactic Union was gone. Its fleets, erased. Its leaders, silenced. Its capital, a void where no signals returned. The human warship had come, delivered judgment, and vanished once more. Echoes of fear. Across the galaxy, trillions watched in horror. Survivors of the fleet, those lucky enough to flee before the final moment, spoke in hushed whispers of weapons beyond understanding. Entire planets cut off contact, fearing they might be next. Civilizations once proud and mighty now trembled, and a new message spread across the stars. A warning: do not seek the humans. Do not enter their space. Do not wake them again. The survivors. Admiral Kanor, once the supreme commander of the Galactic Defense Fleet, sat in a darkened room on a distant colony. He had barely escaped the slaughter. His fleet was the strongest in history, yet the humans had destroyed it like it was nothing. He stared at the empty void outside his window. "They didn't conquer us," he muttered. "They didn't demand anything." A fellow officer, a Veltran warrior, hissed, "Then what do they want?" Kanner's claws tapped against the table. Nothing. The realization sank in. The humans weren't fighting for power. They weren't claiming planets, resources, or control. They had simply returned. And they had punished the Union for its arrogance. Legends reborn. In the deep corners of the galaxy, ancient species whispered old stories. Legends of the Lost Ones, a species so powerful they had once ruled the stars, only to disappear without a trace. Had the humans always been watching? Had they hidden among the void, waiting for the day they would rise again? No one knew. But one thing was certain: humanity was real. Humanity was awake. And now, the galaxy belonged to them. The final warning. A single message was broadcast across every remaining star system. No origin, no signature, just one last warning. We do not seek war. We do not seek power. But we are watching. Do not make the same mistake again. Then, silence. And in that silence, the galaxy knew one thing: the age of the Galactic Union was over. And the age of humanity had begun.